giving you useful and practical tips to help you make more money selling travel. This is the Art of Selling Travel Podcast. And here to guide you through it all, your host, Glenda Beagle.
Welcome back for another episode of the Art of Selling Travel Podcast. As we mentioned, my name is Glenda, and I am so happy to have you here. Actually, this episode in particular, I'm really excited that you're here because in the last little while, we've been growing. We've been growing in ways I didn't think was possible. And I know I talked a little while ago on a different episode about recording all of the metrics that are important to your business and this, that, the other. But something funny happened last week. When I looked at the metrics on the podcast, we had crossed 5,000 downloads. Okay, if you listen to some of the big guys, that is probably what they did in their opening week. But I want to tell you about my story. When I started this podcast, a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago, I was not consistent. I would do 3 or 4 episodes and then it would fade away. Then a couple months later, I'd do another 3 or 4 episodes, it would fade away. Then I'd do 1 or 2 here and 3 or 4 there. And there was no consistency to it. But the other thing is when I did my very first episode, I think in the first couple of weeks it was live, it got 10 downloads. 10. But more importantly, 8 of them were from me. I checked them on my tablet. I checked them on my phone. I said to my husband, you need to go into your Google Play because I only have an iPhone, so I can check it on iTunes. I need you to check it on Google Play. And then because my husband was able to download it, I said to my son, I said, you've got Google Play, but I know you have a different type of device. We need you to download it over there. And by the time I went through the people that I know, we had 8. And then I reached out to a handful of colleagues in the industry. I'm like, hey, I started a podcast, and they were so excited for me that they downloaded it. And after weeks, we finally hit 10. Then we hit 20. And I was like, holy smokes, half these people aren't even me. But there was something about it that it just kind of stayed there. And so it wasn't exciting to get going. It wasn't exciting to do it when I would know that the downloads would be 10, 15, 20, as a whole. And then something changed in June. Part of that was consistency. I keep saying I've got to look back. I can't remember if it was in May or in June that I went to a absolute non-negotiable. Something needs to drop on Wednesdays, every Wednesday. There needs to be an episode every single week. That we started almost like this little bit of a wave way out in the ocean. And it started rolling in and rolling in and rolling in and getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And then absolutely, I got on a couple of big stages. I was able to speak for Travify on their new agent boot camp. I was able to have conversations with some other people on their podcast and things like that. Little by little by little, it started to grow. But here's what I want you to know. On June 30th, after more than a year and a half, I was still only at 2,109 or 2,180 downloads. Almost 2 years in. But I also got to tell you, as leading up to that, I'm like, oh my goodness, we hit 2,000. Like, holy smokes, we're getting there. And then time went on. And from June 30th until that first week in September, we went from 2,100 and some to over 5,000 downloads. Now, when I first saw it, I shared it with a really good colleague in the industry, and she was like, oh my goodness, that's great. And I'm like, it's still only 5,000. It's still only this. I follow Jasmine Star. I remember Jasmine Star hitting 100,000 downloads in her first month. Here I am almost 2 years in, and I'm like, 5,000, whoop, whoop. But Here's the other thing to that. That 5,000 is huge. She's gone from 0 to 100,000 in a month. For me, it took years. And at first I was like, that's okay. And yet this friend was like, that's amazing. And I was like, eh. And then all of a sudden, I think it was about 8:30 at night, I went, holy crap, that was 5,000. And then I just did like a quick look at my podcast. On average, the episodes are about 40 minutes, give or take. Holy smokes, that's 200,000 minutes that people just like you are listening. And I was like, holy smokes. And none of them are family. None of them are related to me. And they're very appreciative of you listening so that they don't have to. But I reached out to a friend of mine. She owns a local business here in town. And I told her, and she's like, that's incredible. Congratulations. And, and she was helping me celebrate. And all of a sudden, I just got this wash of, oh my goodness, look at that. Oh my goodness, look at how far I've come. Oh my goodness. So then it started into this whole other conversation that her and I had, because the company she runs is a large power company in our area. And we were talking about the fact of how long did it take to get, well, for me, it took me nearly 6 months to get 100 downloads of my podcast. 6 months to hit that 100 downloads. And she was saying, what took her 6 months to do in that first 6 months, she was then excited when it only took her a month to do. Then it took her a week. And right now she's doing it in a day. And on some days she's doing it before she even goes for lunch. So if you're brand new to selling travel, brand new to owning your own travel agency, brand new to running your own business, I want you to know that we all started somewhere. So yes, I put up a post last week saying, oh my goodness, I hit 5,000 downloads. But I also want to share with you the other side of that. And that is the fact that the next morning I woke up, checked my stats. I was like, holy smokes, we're at 5,100 and whatever. It was the craziest thing, because somehow in my brain, I was like, okay, I hit 5,000. That's awesome. That was a goal I'd set. If I could hit that by the end of 2023, I would be ecstatic. I hit that. And guess what? It kept going. I got more than 100 downloads that next night, or like that next 24 hours. And I got more than 100 downloads the next 24 hours, and another 100 the next 24 hours, and the next 24 hours, and the next 24 hours. It takes a while to get going. The difference between the businesses that make it and the businesses that don't, the agency owners that thrive and those that take a dive, are those that are willing to keep going. Build the consistency in your business. That is what your business craves. It craves knowing that you are going to show up every single week, that you're going to show up every single day, that you're going to give your business exactly what it needs. And while it sounds wonderful to be able to say it's made lots of sales and you've got lots of customers and you've got lots of this, that, the other, it's most important to say, I showed up. There's lots of travel industry coaches that can help you through the stages. We can help walk you through how it is you're going to close the sales, how it is you're going to get your messaging so that you can take them from inquiry to fully booked. There's people like Sandra McLemore with Travel Marketing and Media who are going to walk you through getting those clients so that you can get them from an inquiry right through till booked. But the one thing that none of us can do for you, we can't show up for you. We can't be consistent for you. We can't be the one who pushes you forward if you're not there. Your business, your clients, your travel agency needs you to show up every day in order for it to grow. My question is, how consistent are you? How much are you showing up? And when the days don't feel like you want to, how much are you keeping track so that you can celebrate those little wins? I actually remember the day that I hit the 100 downloads. I can't tell you what day of the week it was or anything like that. Or I know it was about 6 months after I released my first episode. And I remember thinking, oh my goodness, that was 100. It was so hard, but it was 100. There was 3 digits there. And I remember coming into 2023, 2022 was a rough year. We had so many significant life changes during that period. We moved. I had not planned to move, but we moved from the country into the city. That was a massive identity shift for myself. My brother was killed unexpectedly in an accident. That, of course, sent things for a tailspin. So at the beginning of 2023, I was like, I've got this. And then you know what? Life still shows you that you don't. And it was, again, going into May, June there where I decided I was going to be consistent. And then as part of that, I started recording some of the statistics. I started recording how many downloads do I have? How many email subscribers do I have? How many this, that, the other do I have? Because I tell you, there is an awful lot of weeks that I sit there and I go, I'm not getting anywhere. And I can be down in the dumps just like anybody else. But the one thing that's absolutely irrefutable in my world is data. So when I look at it and I go, holy smokes, the podcast grew by another 474 this week. It grew by 379. It grew by 652. That's unrefutable data. Like, that is something I can hold on to because data is not emotional. It can trigger emotions after because you could be like, holy smokes, look what I did. But in all the time that I've been recording my stats, there's only been 1 week that anything dropped. It was actually my Instagram following, which was interesting. But you know what it did? It re-triggered me to say, okay, how often are you showing up? Because if you're not showing up for your audience, why will they show up for you? And I'm not saying you have to pick a certain platform or a certain anything, but what I am saying is whatever it is that you choose to go all in on, go all in on it. Make sure that you are consistent. Make sure that you are showing up for them the way they deserve to have you show up for them. And beyond that, celebrate the ever-loving stuffings out of whatever it is that makes you happy. I can't tell you, like, as excited as it was for 5,000, like when it fully set in, I was like, oh my goodness. But there was that, but then there's also but look how much my email list grew. I need to really start doing a lot better on emails so that I can provide even more value so that they have the tools that they need to grow their business. It's amazing all the things that get me excited, the reminders that I get just from tracking my data. But the other thing is you've got to celebrate those wins. At the beginning of 2023, I think I was sitting at like 1,200, 1,100 downloads, maybe. Yeah, I think it was like at 1,200. So it took me 6 months to get to the end of June to grow another 1,000 downloads. And here we are the second week of September, and we have grown another 30 some hundred downloads. Because it takes consistency to get the momentum going. So if you are sitting there going, but I don't have any clients, I don't have this, I don't have that, your consistency is looking at what you don't have rather than looking at what you do have or could have. I challenge you to start looking at what you do have and celebrating it. Do you have the ability to go out and network with people? Yesterday, I was at an in-person networking event. And that's not about how do you do the pitches, but rather how well do you get to know the people in your community so that they can get to know you, so that when the time comes that you can then create a connection with them in order to actually do a sale, it's there. In fact, I was actually just having a conversation with the same woman that owns the power company. She said to me, those chocolates that you got, how good are they? I've got one of my outsource people is going to be in town and I would love to get them a treat. I'm like, oh my goodness, you totally have to get them. Now here's the scoop. The woman that sells these doesn't come and pitch what it is that she does and this, that, the other. She just stands up, says her name, says the name of her company. But then when we had a bit of a potluck gathering back in July, of course she brought her chocolates. Of course I have since ordered them. They're amazing and totally worth it. It's not because she kept shoving it down our throat, because there was somebody there yesterday who was like, okay, this is what I do. This is what I do. You need to come and you need to give me your email and you need to be on my list and you need to do. I don't have a clue what her name is, but if I ever see her walk in the room again, I'm going to go the other direction because I don't want to be constantly pitched at. Nobody wants to be pitched at. And yes, I said P like Papa, not B like Bravo. But in some ways, it sounds the same. So here's the deal. We can't do your push-ups for you. Your clients can't do your push-ups for you. So are you going to commit to being consistent and doing the push-ups that are needed in your business? And when you need to, are you going to celebrate your wins? The wins are not when you hit that big milestone. Like I said, 5,000 was supposed to be my whole 2023 goal. I celebrated the heck out of it because it was like, oh my goodness, that happened. And I don't want it to sound wrong, but it happened without trying. That my goal was not to hit the 5,000 in getting consistent. My goal was to build a deeper relationship with people just like you by being consistent. Because who am I to help you in your business if I can't even show up to do something as simple as putting out a weekly podcast? As my family will tell you, I love to talk. So why am I not showing up? I could give you 1,000 reasons why. The other thing I want to do is, real quick, just before we wrap up here, a lot of us suffer with imposter syndrome. And I am a part of an accountability group. I've signed up with some business owners that do coaching and things like that. And we've formed an accountability group. And I remember the one last week saying, okay, well, I'm not struggling right now, but when that imposter syndrome comes, I'm going to reach out. And so I actually said to her, I said, are you suffering from, so you said you're not suffering from imposter syndrome this week? And she said, no. I said, perfect. Then here's what I want you to do. And this is what I want you to do. When you are not suffering from imposter syndrome, I want you to write down every reason why you are the best possible person to be selling travel. Maybe it's because you care about people. Maybe it's because you've traveled to 1,000 destinations. Maybe it's because you've done this or done this or done this or done this. Whatever it is, make your list. Do not type it. It needs to be in your handwriting. And you need to tuck it away. And on a day when you are suffering from imposter syndrome, just like every other one of us does, I want you to pull it out. And I want you to read through that list as if you've written yourself a letter, because only you are able to pull you back out of it. And when you pull yourself back out, I want you to celebrate that win too. Being able to move yourself forward, being able to celebrate even the smallest of wins. Maybe it's something as simple as you're trying to build your email list. Celebrate the first one that goes on there. Celebrate when you consistently, week after week, get to add one new person to your email list. Celebrate when you hit 5 new people to the email list. Celebrate when you hit 10 new people each week to your email list. whatever it is, because if you do not take time to celebrate the little milestones, the little steps, the little rocks along the path, you're never going to enjoy any part of the journey. And when you don't enjoy the journey, trust me, you never get where you're headed. Okay, we're going to wrap up there. Until next week, happy selling. Make sure you come over, join us in the Facebook group. I'm going to link that up in the show notes below. I would love to hear your thoughts on this podcast. Bring it over to the Facebook group or send me a DM over on Instagram. Again, I'm going to link that up in the show notes. Thank you so much. It is because of people just like you. I don't know if you're walking your dog or doing the carpool lane or whatever it is while you're listening to this, but thank you. Know that I celebrated you. I celebrate you each and every day, knowing that you're listening. And I hope that something each week gives you a nugget that helps you grow your business one step further, and that we're on this journey together. So let's celebrate. We'll catch you next week.